Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Guest House, Sweet Home for Patients and Families in Chicago. I'm Nicole Smith, Director of Development, and we are so happy that you're with us for another episode. I'm very happy to introduce two new faces with me this evening, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, starting with Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan Kroeschell. I'm the manager of volunteers and programming at the Guest House.
And Nicole.
And hi, I'm Nicole Franks. I am part of the American Cancer Society Associate Board, and I am a liaison member to the Guest House Associate Board.
So we are so happy that they are with us because on today's episode, we are going to talk about our volunteer program and the importance of volunteerism. We know that it shapes the care for our guests. And before we really get started, I would love to just learn a little bit more about our special guest tonight. And I'm going to start with Jan. Jan, can you just tell everyone a little bit more about your background, how you got started, what actually led you to want to work for the Guest House?
Sure. So I've been at the Guest House 10 years now, which is hard to believe. Mm-hmm. And they did not have a volunteer program when they first started, when they were looking for this position to fill it. I had recently been in another position as a volunteer coordinator at a senior center in the city. And in looking for new employment, I came upon this opportunity, and it just felt like a calling. It just felt like the right job at the right time, and I was so excited to be a part of it. And they were growing their program. They wanted a volunteer program to bring in volunteers that could serve at the Guest House and do more, programming and offer some opportunities for involvement. And they didn't even have the community room yet.
Wow.
The Jane Wright Community Room wasn't even built yet. It was a vision that they wanted to bring together, and it was great to be a part of that growth. And, at the time we had 6 guest rooms, and we've now grown to 47 over the 10 years. So.
Which is amazing. And I'll just stop real quick so that you don't forget something she just said. She mentioned something called the community room. And we now call it the Jane Wright Community Room after our founder. But why don't you let our viewers know what our community room actually is?
Yeah, it's kind of the main hub of our guest house. It's a place where we have meals, where guests can, if they need a little more space, maybe sometimes away from their family, if their loved one maybe is taking a break and is resting and they want to come in and grab a book or put together a puzzle or watch TV just to have some time on their own, they come to the community room and are able just to hang out or check things out, if they want to do puzzles and things like that in their room. So we have a full-size kitchen, and so volunteers come in to bake cookies and prepare our Thursday dinners, and it's a main gathering place for guests as well as volunteers.
Yeah, it really is the hub, and we love it so much. And now that we have been really blessed with a kind contribution from our founder, we were able to give it a little sprucing up. We call it a revitalization of the space. And we did that a few months ago. So now, if you happen to stay with us, or if you happen to come visit and you want to take a tour, you'll see and you'll hopefully feel how much it feels like a little piece of home. Mm-hmm. We want you to feel comforted when you walk through those doors. So hopefully you'll feel that when you step into those doors. So Nicole.
Yes.
We are so happy to have Nicole because it's special whenever you have one of your volunteers that wants to share their story, and we're just happy that Nicole is with us tonight. Why don't you tell all of our viewers a little bit more about your background and what made you even want to get involved with the Guest House?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm part of the American Cancer Society Associate Board of Ambassadors, and I actually found Guest House through them. So American Cancer Society partners with Guest House, and I came back to Chicago. I lived in Chicago previously, and I moved back in 2020. So definitely kind of wanting to reconnect with the community, figure out a way to get in touch with Chicago, and help people. So I joined the American Cancer Society ABOA, and in volunteer events were scarce in 2020 for obvious reasons. But in 2021, the first volunteer event we did as an associate board was at Guest House. It was 2021,
okay.
and it was the outdoor, socially distanced cookout, and it was just absolutely amazing. It was with the guests. If guests wanted to come down and eat there, they could. If they wanted to go back to their rooms, they could. And it was just this amazing kind of integration of volunteers. I think there were also Guest House Associate Board volunteers there as well, and regular board volunteering there. Yeah. And so it was just this amazing kind of mixture of people who wanted to help, and then also residents who were also helping, or guests that were helping and kind of helping hand things out as well. So it was just this amazing, hey, it's been a while since we've been in person with a couple things, and it just brought a new light. And then in 2022, we did 2 events. And then in this past year, 2023, we managed to do a quarterly event. Yeah. And it's just an amazing, being able to do the events at Guest House. It kind of breaks down these different barriers of who's a guest, who's a volunteer, and all this. That just kind of blends together. We sit and we eat the meals with the volunteer, or with the guests, with the volunteers. And it's just this amazing opportunity that it just kind of makes you love volunteering even more. So it's just such a cool time.
It really, and what I love is Nicole obviously is connected to us through our partner with the American Cancer Society. But we love that because of all the great work that she's done. We told her, you can't leave us. You have to always be a part. Even if you're not, even if your path changes down the line and you decide that you want to broaden your scope and do some more volunteer work, we're not going to let Nicole go because she's amazing. And we're always grateful when we have these amazing volunteers that come and want to help us. So, you know what? You've heard a little bit from us. So why don't you hear from our Volunteer of the Year, Kevin Howard, and he can tell you a little bit more.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Howard. I'm with AstraZeneca here in Chicago, Illinois. It is such a joy to volunteer here at the Illinois Medical District Guest House. I just delivered food to one of the residents, and it was lovely to hear them thank us for bringing it and bringing some light to their eyes, and the great interaction that we had. It's humbling, it's lovely, it's something that brings you back more often than not. And so I look forward to the next time being able to do the same thing. Happy holidays to you. Thank you.
That was great.
I tell you, it's always wonderful to hear from our volunteers, to see what they think about their own experiences working with us. We're so grateful that we have, and I'm going to have Jan tell us some stats because I'm not going to give you incorrect information. I'm going to let Jan tell you a little bit more about how many people come and volunteer with us, and tell you a little bit more about the volunteer program and actually how you can join us on any given day.
Yeah, our program has certainly grown since, post-COVID. Our numbers are back up again, which is so great. I think, we really struggled to get our Thursday dinner numbers back up, get sponsors to come in and be able to host a dinner or make a dinner, or, just get the volunteers back in the door. And it's been great. We've filled every Thursday night this year, and we're already booking January and February of next year. February's full. And which so I love that. And so we have at least 400 to 500 volunteers come through in a year.
Wow.
And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. I should have prepared a little better on that. But our volunteers have been so generous, so we keep track of that in-kind donation of just the the value of their time, the value of what they're bringing, and between dinners and cookies and we have volunteers that come together that make welcome bags, and those are such a wonderful project for big groups to do, small groups to do. We have Girl Scouts that come. We've got service groups. Rotary Club of Arlington Heights is a regular partner of ours. We've got some pharmaceutical companies that come, and sometimes they just need a project for their service day. And doing welcome bags is a great thing because they can write a comfort card to the guests, and those personal cards mean so much to our guests. And then just the treats and items that they put in the bags are just a lovely item for guests that they feel cared for. They feel like someone is kind of journeying with them and thinking of them during this difficult time, and it means so much to each of our guests that maybe after a long day at the hospital, they're coming back to their room, their apartment at the guest house, and they have this bag hanging on the door, and it's just nice to be thought of. So I'm always looking for volunteers to come in to be able to, give some time. And it could be you're coming once a quarter to do something. Some guests come quarterly, as Nicole with her group does. Others might want to come in, every 6 months or once a year. So we accommodate.
That's right. That's right. You never know what you may be influenced to want to do once you talk to someone, once you just talk to us, once you meet a guest. You never know how that may influence your decision to become a volunteer. And actually, one of our colleagues who you've seen on this program before, Joni Vernasco, our Director of Business Operations, she just recently sent a quote to us today from someone who said, I just wanted to let you know how much I really appreciate the little treats that you leave on my door. They brighten my day. They make a huge difference. When it's really hard, when I've had a rough day of treatment, they just bring such a smile to my face. Those are the basic things that you want to hear. That's just simple, right? Something that's as small as a cookie, a piece of fruit, some kind of cracker. That may seem very basic, but we all know when someone's thinking of you, that means the world, right? And so when Jan mentioned comfort cards, just so you know, as she kind of described, that's what we call our little notes of encouragement. We call them comfort cards because that's part of our mission is to provide comfort. So we call little notes of encouragement comfort cards. And it's great because you see big groups that come in, they sit down, or you may see kids that want to come in from our neighboring schools to draw pictures or to write cards. And I think it's hilarious when you see them. And I'm sure, Nicole, I think occasionally you may have seen maybe one or two people before who you see these kids, and it's so great because they have such big hearts.
Yep. And they get it. They get
and
the
they're
mission.
drawing. Yes. Yes, please tell. Please.
We had a group that came in from a local school, Urban Prairie, and they're going to come back in the new year. But they made welcome signs. So they decorated all these signs, and I had them put them on the doors of the guest rooms. And one of them that cracked us up was, welcome to the guest house. We know you probably, welcome to the guest house and Chicago. We know you'd probably rather be in Florida.
Right.
Yes.
And it was perfect. And actually, we've had a few guests that have stayed in that room that they're like, I'm from Florida. This actually is really great. So I don't even know if the sign's still there because sometimes our people take those and take them home with them because they really treasure being thought of and being heard, you know. I also want to tell another story of recently we had Joni Vernasco's sister, Allie, is a really good singer. And annually now, this is our third year, she has corralled some of her friends and even people she doesn't know who sing. And they came to the guest house to do some caroling. And so the associate board was there, and they brought cookie treats, and then these carolers came, and some of our guests joined them, and it was such a wonderful Saturday morning, and it just kind of came together. And so they sang in the community room, and then they went caroling in the hallways, and so guests opened their doors and were listening in, and they went upstairs to the 4th floor where the veterans stay, and the veterans had typically they will go on some field trips with the program, with the Road Home program, and they hadn't left yet. So they were upstairs, and they have a day room that's 401, so the carolers went in there. They were invited by some veterans that were all gathering in there, and they asked if there were any requests, and one of the guests asked for a particular song that happened to be in their song program. And they started to sing it, and it touched the woman so much that she just started to cry. And it was a beautiful moment for the volunteers, the other veterans to support her. And, the carolers who aren't familiar with the guest house really were touched by being able to just see that their gift was able to touch others. And it just kind of happens organically sometimes, and I just love when that happens, because we're just trying to bring people together, and you just never know what'll occur.
That's right. You never know. And Nicole, have you, because you've been involved with us now for a few years, are there any special moments that you remember that kind of touched you?
I will say I think one of the amazing things with guest house volunteering is the variety of things you can do, right? So you can make these dinners on Thursdays, which, I mean, even then it's only a few hours, but it's a bigger lift compared to some of the other things. You can do breakfasts on the Saturdays. You can do the caroling cookies, make cards on your own and deliver them over. And I think for me, one of the things is seeing seeing repeat faces is always a thing at the guest house, is obviously seeing you two, but also seeing the guests that are there and being able to kind of almost build a rapport with these different individuals. And it's just always so grateful. I think one of my favorite times actually was this last time that we were there, and we made a dinner, and we came and we sat with all the guests, and there was actually another group that came and made crafts kind of afterwards. And so sometimes two groups will come in one night. So we made a dinner, a different group came in and made crafts, and we stayed later, and we were just kind of hanging out, and everyone was welcome to hang out. All the volunteers were hanging out. And similar to what I was saying earlier with the mix of who knows who's who, and we were just talking about absolutely nothing. And we were laughing, we were loving it, and it wasn't even about the volunteering anymore. It was just sitting in your living room with some people. And that is, I know that's not this amazing, magnificent answer. It's really simplistic, but it's the core of just it's truly one of my favorite times.
I love that, because that actually is a really good example, and that's actually a great answer, because what we want people to do when they come to see us is to feel like themselves. Right. We don't want them to think about their diagnoses. We don't want that to be top of mind when they're hanging out in the community room, when they're spending time with groups, when they're having a lovely dinner. We want them to feel and to have joy and to feel like they really are maybe at home in their living room. Yeah. And that's why we try to create an environment that makes you feel loved and warm and welcome and exactly right. So I thought that was a great example of that, Nicole, because truthfully, that's what we want. We see that every week. We come into the community room, we try to, and obviously led by Jan, because that is her role. Her role is to manage the volunteer program, the programming, the heart of what we do to try to aid in the healing process for our guests. That's what Jan does. And then you have these wonderful volunteers like Nicole. And so we all try to work together to make sure that guests really do feel loved. That is just, we almost feel like that should be a part of our tag or our mission. It's let's spread love, right? I mean, we talk about Sweet Home for patients and families in Chicago, but that's what we're trying to do, is to just connect people. And it's just a beautiful thing. Jen, can you just describe a little bit so that people are really clear about how does this process work? if people are listening right now, if our viewers are sitting at home saying, you know what, I have some free time, or maybe I want to physically sponsor, or with my dollars, right? Perhaps you can't be there in person, but you want to send us a contribution in order to just sponsor a dinner for our guests, right? Or perhaps they have a huge group within their organization or their company, and maybe we can't get everybody there in the community room. What can we do? Can you just kind of describe some scenarios for everybody?
Yeah, well, like earlier I mentioned the welcome bags. So we've had some groups that have done things off-site. Off-site to me is not in the community room, though we love bringing groups in there because we want them to be able to see the guest house, meet some of the guests. But, you know, sometimes if you've got more than 20 people, it gets a little crowded in our community room. So to be able to do something off-site where they're meeting at their corporate site, or you know, maybe they're all meeting in a restaurant or something like that, they can gather, put together bags, write cards, and assemble that stuff. And I love being able to come over and either meet them, tell them more about the guest house, or they come by and they bring them back. And I love bringing it full circle so that they're bringing them to the guest house, and then they can deliver them by hanging them on the doors. So we try to capture all that in pictures. We want to definitely encourage in our social media the volunteers that have come and what good they're doing in the world and in the world of guest house for our guests. So we got bigger projects like that, as Nicole mentioned. It could be something that, you know, you and your child or somebody wants to just write cards. Those comfort cards, I can't tell you how important they are. People really they'll come back and tell me, I'm carrying this around. You know, this encouragement was just what I needed to hear. So I always believe that when people are writing cards, they just go to the right person at the right time who needs to hear that good word. And typically I tell my volunteers when they're writing those cards, everybody needs encouragement. Everybody needs to be told they're brave when they don't feel brave. And, you know, our guests are fighting for health, for mental health, for their loved one. Because the card might go to the loved one because maybe the patient's in the hospital. They'll probably share that card, but, you know, it really touches everybody that's a part of that family unit. And those cards make a difference. So you know, whether it's a quote or you just get how it is to be with somebody who is in a difficult place, even being able to just say, I see you, I'm a friend, and I want to let you know that you're being brave right now. Those words just empower somebody to go, okay, another day. So
That's the truth. And I love that you never know who you may see on any given period of time when you come and volunteer, right? You may meet new friends from corporate partners and people who've come, like Ellie Dumas with Northern Trust. You saw Kevin Howard with AstraZeneca. We have our lovely group from the Rotary Club of Arlington Heights, who Jan mentioned. And you have all of these wonderful partners. Urban Autism Solutions, their farm, they just started giving us fresh produce this year. We started that, which is amazing. You're talking about, we also try to help you with food insecurity if we can. We try our best to help in any way we possibly can. And before we're done, I just want to make sure that you have every opportunity in order to support us, in order to reach out. So make sure that you visit us at guesthousechicago.org. You can get more information. You can obviously fill out an application to be a volunteer. And you see we're displaying our CAN TV already. Don't you love that? But we want you to visit us because we're always looking for support. And before we leave, I want to make sure we might remind you that we are a part of the Chicago Marathon for the 3rd year in a row. And so we need runners. So if you're interested and want to, check that milestone off your list and you want to be a part of our team, we really are looking for runners, and we need to fill our slots by the end of January. So as you're thinking about this during the holidays and after you've eaten some good food and you decide that you want to lose some weight, Yes, be a part of our marathon team.
Good 2024
You see the
resolution.
page. That's right. You see the page right there. So definitely be a part of our marathon team. Have a good night.